go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to my favorite hour of Thursday. Heck, even the whole week, AWS Power Hour Machine Learning, the show where you know the drill. We talk about and show off how to leverage machine learning to make your apps more intelligent. I'm Kirsten Dupart, lead machine learning technical curriculum developer. This is my friend John Dion. He's a senior cloud technologist, and we are both from AWS training and certification.
And good day and good evening to you all and everyone in chat.
Yeah. John, where are you streaming from today? Does not look like a farm to me. Were you abducted by my alien friends? If so, can you tell them to come and get me? Did you take the red or the blue pill, by the way?
Yeah, I actually took the blue pill after eating all of that butter last week. I'm all up in there
Right.
and still happy land and whatever. And obviously, yeah, there's a blue pill, right? Blue shirt, blue pill. I will
I
have rated,
like it.
right?
Perfect. Okay. Well, you know what, John? We have got a great episode today. It's on Amazon CodeGuru, which is an ML service for automated code reviews as well as application performance recommendations. So obviously, this is a really exciting service for developers. Speaking of which, how many devs do we have? I'm seeing aliens already. You guys just already are making my whole day. How many devs do we have in the chat? Don't be shy. If you're a dev, say what's up.
Fake dev as well. That counts, right?
Yeah,
Fake
aspiring
hacky
dev,
one, right?
fake,
Like
fake
fake
dev.
dev. All right. Fake dev. Yeah, we
Awesome.
have a few. Good.
Fake
Here.
dev. Greetings. Awesome. This
Awesome.
is great to see you guys. And John, you were an SDE before coming to Amazon, is that right?
Something like that. Yes. So
Something like that. Yeah, dev, not dev. You were definitely a dev. So how excited are you for the next 60 minutes?
I am really excited. So I love what CodeGuru has to offer developers. So I'm really looking forward to helping walk you all through its key features. So the amount of bad code that I wrote in the past is it's quite a lot. So I don't know if that happened to anyone, but anyone that's been a developer kind of know all of that peer reviewing thing. Like how many of you really like that peer reviewing thing? I for one don't like that at all, and the reason is it's because my peers will review my bad code, and then they will make fun of me for weeks. So that's basically what was happening. It's the worst. I don't want them to see how bad I code, and then now with peer reviewing, then yeah, that's maybe why I left that field. So yeah. So now I'm pretty sure machine learning won't laugh at me. So since the machines won't do it, then I think we're gonna be fine. So that's why I'm pretty excited about that CodeGuru thing. I'll be
I bet.
really thankful about that if I could have had that before. So Kirsten, with that in mind, what exactly are we going to be talking about inside of this episode? So
Yes.
what's the agenda for today?
Yep. So we're going to do what we usually do. We're going to start with a quick recap of last week, and then we will go into just a quick intro of CodeGuru and its two main features. So there's Profiler and there's Reviewer. Profiler and Reviewer have pretty distinct functionality. So we've split the episode into two parts, talking about and then demoing each. So we're also going to throw in some fun interactions for you guys all in the chat. So keep an eye out, doing things just a little different today. So that'll be fun. And then to help us do all of this, we've got not one, but two guests. So lucky us. First, we'll be bringing out Daniela Svetkova to walk us through Profiler, and then we'll talk with Vishnu Purimi about Reviewer. So that's what's going on.
Okay. So Daniela for Profiler, and
Mhm.
then we said Vishnu for
Reviewer.
Reviewer. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So two guests for us this week. That's going to be great. So, okay, we got a ton going on. So I want to get rolling quickly so we have enough time to really do justice to both of these services, right? Profiler and Reviewer, that all are both part of CodeGuru. So you'll hear us use these terms, we'll keep it changing those terms all the time, but it's all good. So first, before we do that, right, the first step here is supposed to be a recap of last week. So can we do that? And then maybe do that around a quick quiz?
Yes. Yep. We can definitely do that. So, okay, chat, you guys know the drill. In just a second, you're going to see a question pop up, and then you just simply put a 1, 2, 3, or a 4 in the chat, depending on what you think the answer is. So let's just go ahead and get started. First question.
So what is the main reason I am interested in using Amazon Comprehend? To identify key phrases in the local Toronto news that I read, to determine the sentiment of readers' comments on his blog, Maple Syrup, making my maple syrup isn't for everyone, or to analyze my mother's emails in French. Which one will that be? For anyone that was there last week.
But your maple syrup is for everybody, right?
Well, yeah,
It's
but like
everyone.
farming it. Like maple syrup farming isn't for
Okay.
everyone. Like,
That's true.
huh. So, am I hardworking or am I lazy and don't want to read emails? Like, which one?
Seen a bunch of
Sounds
answers.
like everyone is on the lazy side. That's good. That was actually the answer. So, awesome. Okay, next question. What do we have? It's almost showing up. Okay. Which? Oh, go for it.
Which is an entity that Amazon Comprehend would identify if analyzing the following statement? It's raining again in Seattle, and Kirsten is actually quite pleased. Which is an entity that Comprehend would identify?
Entity, right? Yeah, last week we used that sentence to kind of define every single little pieces that Comprehend can do, right?
Yep.
Like, so we said a bunch of stuff around that sentence, like around what the it's is, and then what the Seattle is, what the Seattle is.
Like seeing all these answers come through. We got a lot of ones.
That sounds good. Yep, Seattle was the answer. So the rest aren't entities. Another entity out of that could have been Kirsten. So Kirsten is another entity. Next question. You want to categorize emails received from customers so you can quickly route those emails to the appropriate support channels. Which feature of Amazon Comprehend should you use? Categorize emails received from customers.
A good question.
I'm muted. That's great. Thank you. So I was going to say there are two ways to customize Comprehend, which is quite different than Lex and Textract that we've also seen in the other 2 weeks. And those two customizations, they were classification and an entity recognition. That way you can train and retrain your own model within Comprehend. It's called transfer learning. So you feed it a little bit more information. So it's both of those are correct at the bottom as the correct, as a custom way of doing things, right? As you training your own model. But right here, we're trying to categorize emails. So that will be classification, categories, classification. That's what that really means there. So number 3 was the answer. Okay, let's see for last one. And you want to create an application that will help you analyze image copies of paid receipts for expense reports. Those expense reports again. What combination of services can help you with this use case? I have email receipts, right? It's pictures. Now maybe I want to do something with it. And then I want to analyze them and do something with that text. Sounds like people are catching up pretty quickly on that one. We talked about 3 services, right? In the last 3 weeks?
Yep.
Or so. It was lex, extract, and comprehend. So, which one of those ones will it be? And apparently, that was number 2. It is. So, extract extracts the data from that picture, and then comprehend to kind of understand what is going on within that picture, and then understand what that data from there. So, that's
Nice.
All of the quiz show we had, right?
Awesome. Yeah. Great job, everybody. And John, I was paying so close attention to the chat because I love the chat. That's what I love about Twitch. I didn't even realize that you were talking on mute. Sorry about that. But good, people caught you.
Okay.
So this is what's great. So
I was trying to raise my desk without sound, and then that's what happens.
Oh, awesome.
So, okay. Let's get to our main event for today on CodeGuru Profiler, right? That's the next thing that we want to talk. So our first guest today is Daniela Tsveskova. Did I get that right? I'm Tsveskova.
Almost there, Svetkova.
Almost there. Senior Product Manager for Amazon CodeGuru. Daniela, welcome to the show. Sorry for messing up your name.
Thank you very much, Jonathan and Kirsten. Happy to be streaming with you guys this evening.
Yeah, and by evening, by the way, you guys, Daniela wins. She totally, it's 2 a.m. for her right now, right, Daniela? It's like 2?
Yeah, it is 2 a.m. right now.
And where are you at? Where are you calling in from?
Right now, I'm in Bulgaria, and that's why it's 2 a.m.
Oh my gosh,
That's
I
awesome.
love the global reach of all of this. That's so cool.
That
Definitely,
is awesome.
yeah, definitely a new record for us.
So, in every one of our show, Daniela, what we do is we start these segments with our guests to know what was their ML journey. So, Kirsten, ML journey was about aliens. Mine was because of Kirsten. She forced me into it. So, what's yours? How did you get into machine learning?
Oh. Okay, so I have a journey related to my cat. I've been trying to teach my cat to walk on a leash. I don't have a dog, therefore the cat should do. And I've been very frustrated. So I thought if I train a machine to do that, the machine learning algorithm should teach my cat to bloody walk on a cat leash. So I'm almost there. Still training the algorithm though.
That's awesome. So we got cats, aliens, and
And Kirsten. Kirsten is the reason.
and colleagues.
All right. So I know you're going to help us get deep into CodeGuru Profiler. But before we go into, Profiler right away, I want to, if you can give us like a 30-second elevator pitch of what CodeGuru is, like just CodeGuru itself.
Sure. Yeah. So CodeGuru as a service, it's a developer tool powered by machine learning, and it provides intelligent recommendations for improving the quality of your code and identifies the most expensive lines of code of your live application.
Awesome.
And
That's
it
awesome.
currently, I should mention, currently as of this moment, it supports Java. And in that respect, also related to Profiler, it supports other JVM languages.
Okay. So like Java, just to make sure, that's the older version of JavaScript, right? Because we all know JavaScript is the best. So like it's the older version, right? Just making sure.
Whatever
out
you
there.
say.
That's all good.
Don't make me look old. Come on.
No. Like it's just like I think JavaScript is the upgraded version. No one should
Of
be
Java?
using that. It's okay. No,
Okay.
everyone's still using that. It's okay.
John's a Node guy. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. So that's awesome. So that service, right? The CodeGuru service. I have something for everyone there. Back to our previous show that we talked about.
Oh, I know where you're going.
I know, right? We discussed. Yeah, come on.
By the
Open
way,
that one up.
Daniela, I think there are some people in the chat who might be Bulgarian, I think, saying hello, and that 2 a.m. is
Yay,
great, a great time to learn ML.
Zdrasti. That's in Bulgarian. Hello.
So CodeGuru itself, right? So in the previous episode, I've shown this stack before, right? And if you remember what we talked about before, it was all about trying to make butter. So if you're trying to make butter, you can go the hard way, get onto a farm, and then go and make butter. Or an easier way will be you start and buy some milk and then you make the butter. Or at the very top will be you just go and you buy the butter. So that's the analogy there. So at the very bottom of the stack, the hard way, right? You go to the farm, you try to make the butter. That's the machine learning way, but the hard way. In the middle portion, SageMaker, it makes it way easier because you buy the milk directly and then you churn your butter. So that's a little bit better. But then at the very top, you just buy the butter. And no, I don't have butter to eat this week. I ate it all last week. No. So CodeGuru, right there at the very top. Why? Because it's a machine learning service and it's available. You don't need to know how to code at all for going. Well, sorry. You don't need to know, well, it goes with code, right? So you don't need to know how machine learning works. You just use a service directly. That's why it's very at the top over there. So you simply need to use a service to make some use of those models that are there.
There you go.
At TLDR, AWS sells butter. Yeah. So, Daniela, in your elevator pitch, you mentioned that CodeGuru helps improve code quality and identify an app's most expensive lines of code. That sounds to me like kind of a big deal, some big tasks. How exactly does CodeGuru do that?
Well, let me walk you through the whole experience.
Okay.
Okay. Switch to my screen. So the whole process of running code and writing code and running code, everybody knows it, but I'll just go over it just so that we're on the same page. So you write code, and then you have your teammates review your code, and you're obviously not embarrassed because it's an awesome code, and they find very few things that are
don't
problematic.
laugh at you.
Not at all. And then you fix them, and then you build your code, and you test it, you deploy it, and then you run it. And then if there are any issues, because let's face it, they do happen, you respond to them. And that's your everyday life. And hopefully you spend most of your time on writing new code, which is the exciting part, and less on fixing issues. So this is what happens in general, but then things can go wrong, and things can go wrong in many different places. So if we look at the beginning of this life cycle, you can have even the best developer, when they review your code, they can miss a bug. And it can slip in and nobody can catch it, and then it has a effect downstream. Also, when you're building or when you're testing your code, you may have insufficient coverage, including performance testing, and those performance issues can creep into production. In addition to that,
while you're... You really need tests? Like, come on, just deploy right in prod.
Who does that? Just deploy. Like... Be a cowboy. So
that's what I still wear, cowboy hat.
When you're running your application, you can have monitoring issues, such as maybe an issue doesn't get caught, or it gets caught too late when the problem has already happened, whereas what you need to know is as far back in advance as possible to know that things are going wrong and you want to be able to respond. Also, if your application is written in an inefficient way, especially when it's run at scale, it costs you way more money than it should. And also, when an operational issue happens, you can have a slow response, slower than you were anticipating, which means that it has downstream effect on your customers. It creates poor customer experience that affects your business. And also your developers who should be writing new code, they actually have to stop doing that and respond to the operational issues. And this is where CodeGuru plays a role. We've tried to improve the experience for developers throughout this life cycle, so that we catch the problems before they happen, and also help the developer respond to them faster when some of those do happen.
Awesome. And then, so you mentioned CodeGuru is supposed to do something in there, but then we talk about two sides, right? Profiler and reviewer. Where do they come in? What do they take care of inside of here?
Yeah. So CodeGuru has two very distinct services, Reviewer and Profiler. And one service looks at the code as it's being written, that's Reviewer. And the
Okay.
other service looks at your live application and how it's performing, whether it's on pre-production or production. So when we first start, when you're writing your code and you're reviewing your code, this is where reviewer plays a big role. This is when you want to run reviewer on your application or on your code before you have asked your fellow teammate to review your code. And this is the reason why you want to do that is you want to just get rid of the difficult problems that reviewer can catch. And basically enable your teammate to catch other problems that maybe are more related to the logic of your application. So this is the one place, and then after that, when you already start running your application, you have pre-production when you're doing your performance testing. You want to make sure that your performance is not affected. Now you might be asking me, well, why can't reviewer catch the performance issues at the code level? And the reason is that many times, in fact, most of the times, you cannot catch performance issues until you've seen the application running. And that's because there's code that looks perfectly fine until you start running a lot of it, in which, or a line of code many times, in which case it does impact your performance. And you can say, well, why don't you fix everything? And the reason why you want to fix everything is that you don't want to do premature optimization. So this is why you want to run Profiler on pre-production when you run your performance testing. Now, what happens is that when you run performance testing, you're generating synthetic load, which means that you're trying to imitate or simulate traffic as it would appear on pre-production. But in reality, you can never 100% simulate this or any sort of combinations or permutations of events. So once you fix the problems, performance problems, you run your code on production, then you also want to run profiling. And this is super important. We're going to go into more details why you need to run profiling all the time. And when that happens, your profiler is going to continuously capture runtime information and do anomaly detection and find the most expensive lines of code and do visualizations. And this is where in the run part and the respond to operational issues part of the life cycle, that profiler plays a role. So throughout the journey, reviewer and profiler help you write better code or fix issues if and when they happen.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I kind of get it now, John. Yeah, right? We get a little bit better.
I think I saw a question in there from William that was related with Jenkins, like Jenkins integration with CodeGuru, where maybe a little bit earlier for me I drew arrows that were around that seemed to be doing, like, reviewer and profiler was doing the pipeline. It's not, right? So it's fixing the issues that we have, those red little things that are everywhere. I just wanted to make sure of that. So my bad on the arrows. I should not have made them all around there. So that's good. All right.
So Daniela, I know we've only got you for a limited amount of time, so I want to definitely move us into CodeGuru Profiler to see how it works before we bring on Vishnu to talk us through reviewer. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, cool. Maybe the first thing you could do is talk to us a little bit more about Profiler specifically.
Yeah, sure. So profiler is, CodeGuru profiler is a always-on profiler, which continuously samples the JVM, because we're talking about any sort of JVM application, Java, Scala, Clojure, Kotlin, and so on. So it runs on production or pre-production with very low overhead, and it captures all the data related to how your application is running. and it identifies the most expensive lines of code. And we're going to talk about exactly what you can see with the profiler. The things that you can do with it is see everything that your application is doing, how much time it's spending in each line of code, and also identify performance issues and give you recommendations how to fix them.
Great.
Awesome.
So let's very quickly jump into Profiler. So there will be two things that we're going to look at. One is the recommendation report. As I said, the Profiler finds the most expensive line of codes and gives you recommendations how to fix them. So that's one recommendation report. And the second thing is the visualizations, where the Profiler shows you where your application is spending its time in terms of lines of code or class name, method name.
Okay, awesome. And before we just jump in that, there's one question that Aguta6 sent. How will Profiler differentiate to Selenium type automated testing tool?
I don't think it will differentiate. I mean, it's going to respond to the traffic and behavior of an application that is being presented. So it'll just capture that information, but it won't have the awareness of whether your application is using Selenium for testing.
Okay, awesome. Okay, let's get into that demo. I can't wait to see that.
It's a very good use case. I love it, and I absolutely recommend people to use this combination on pre-production.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Okay, great. So let's quickly jump into the recommendation report. So this is an example, and we have 5 recommendations, and they're split in 2. So we have 2 types of recommendations. One is anomaly detection, and the other ones are performance recommendations, which relate to the most expensive lines of code. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about what we mean by most expensive lines of code. So let's first talk about anomaly detection. So what you can see here is an anomaly that we have identified with a given class name, method name. So the method name is getEntry. And you can see that we show you a time series of how it's been performing over time. And you can see that there's a blip in the walk log time, which we have identified as an anomaly. Now, the important thing to note is that we use machine learning to identify what an anomaly is, and they are continuously trained and continuously adjusting based on data. And therefore, we make sure that we don't show you something that is a cyclical or a seasonal behavior, because that is not an anomaly. So we're looking for a true anomaly. And you can...
Very cool.
These algorithms are continuously trained, and you can further help training them by providing feedback here in the thumbs up, thumbs down. You don't need to, but you'll make it faster if you were to do that. And so,
awesome.
So this is on the anomaly. The interesting thing about anomaly detection is that it works at the method level. Now, we know what is the behavior and the performance of your code at the method level. So we monitor all of the methods and what percentage they take from the CPU. And based on the behavior of each of those methods, if one of them or more behave anomalously, we're going to note it. The algorithms are this approach is very sensitive, which means that by using anomaly detection at the profile level, we are able to find or predict incidents happening well before they have happened. So in other words, hopefully you will get this alert well before the incident has happened, so that you have had time to fix it, so that the incident never happens. The one downside is that you're never going to get a reward for fixing a problem because you avoided the problem. But hey,
Hey, I like waking up at 2 a.m. and fixing stuff. Like, it shows like I'm a hero. So then I can go to sleep the next day, I think. I think that's how SREs work.
yeah. So
So,
that's on the anomaly detection. Yeah, sorry, you had a question.
oh yeah, I was gonna ask. So, right now we're looking at that anomaly detection, right? That arrived there, but the path for this to arrive, right? So, like, I start with my code. It's in production. Is it an agent that is running on, like, on the server? It is kind of taking some metrics and pushing that over into CodeGuru? Like, how does that work? Like,
Yeah,
what's
sure.
the way from the code or the server to CodeGuru?
Yeah, absolutely. So what a profiler does, and there's different types of profiling. What CodeGuru profiler does is what is called a statistical or sampling profiler. So what the profiler does is it has a profiling agent, which is a thread that runs alongside your application. So it's not a separate agent. The agent is a thread which runs alongside your application, and it continuously samples the JVM. So it happens not too frequently, but frequently enough. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you want to have statistically valid data to make an informed decision and have a data point that's valid, but without killing your performance. And this is
Nice.
why CodeGuru Profiler can run on production. It has around 1% CPU utilization overhead, which is very little. And that's why internally at Amazon, we have a huge number of Java applications, Java and JVM applications running the profiler and on production. And so yeah, to answer your question, yes, there is an agent. It's super easy to start it. In fact, I will show you how to start it. So essentially, you start your application with
Can you make that a little bit bigger? My eyes are pretty old. Or pretty bad. I don't know how to say that.
Oops.
Oh, almost there.
How do I increase that? Hold on. I tried the command plus, it didn't work.
Not having fun there.
Well,
so basically it's an agent, right? So you start the jar file, it seems, from it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You start your application and you provide a Java switch, Java agent switch, which I don't know if you can see it here, but yeah, you just provide the Java agent switch with the jar file, and then boom, it works. And then once you do that, the thread is going to the profiling thread is going to run and continuously capture. Now, the interesting thing, if you're interested, is that the agent is going to run on all the hosts or containers where your application is running continuously up until we have enough information, statistical information. So in other words, we will be very judicious with how we run the agent, so it doesn't kill your performance.
Awesome. Okay. That's good.
Great. So that was one part of the recommendation report. Now, the second part is your most expensive line of code. Now, the expensiveness of a line of code has multiple nuances, and they literally all hit your purse. Now, at the most basic level, what we mean by most expensive line of code, it's the cost, how much it costs you to run your application, because for any application to run, you need compute services, and those compute services cost. And the more CPU you use, the more it's going to cost you. And when you have inefficient code, and you run at scale, this can cost you a lot of money. And trust me, we know this from experience here at Amazon. So every line of code matters. And if you think, well, I'm not as big as Amazon, if you're running at scale, you want to make sure that you are optimizing the performance of your application, because otherwise you're leaving money on the table. So that's one.
Like, if you go and if you can drop a few EC2 instances while it's running, then that's perfect, right?
Exactly.
Or even in Lambda, like you're paying by the amount of 100 milliseconds this is running. If you can make that go faster, you're saving money.
Yeah, yeah, and we do profile Lambda, by the way.
Awesome.
We'll talk about that. Right, so one is the bottom line, which is how much it's going to cost to run your application, but also if this is hitting, if an inefficient line of code is hitting the performance of your application, whereby it's taking too long to run, it means that your customer is going to have a poor user experience. And let's say that you're an e-commerce trying to sell things. Every drop in performance means that you will be losing customers because customers don't have time to wait. And so it's hitting your business. And then the other thing is that and I mentioned it earlier is if you have an outage, any second spent on fixing the outage means that you cannot be spending time on building features and also again problems downstream with your customer experience. Right, so the recommendation report contains performance recommendations, and these are what I call low-hanging fruit. In other words, we have trained our algorithms to look for these expensive lines of code where we know that they refer to poorly written code or inefficient code. And I'm going to show you examples here. We have 4 of those. So we'll look at one of them.
Just want to make sure we have about 5 more minutes because I want to really put time on the reviewer. I know there's a flame graph side I really wanted to see, so it's making sure we're on time.
So I'll just show you for 1 minute. So this is a recommendation report. We have a repeated creation of a very expensive object, and we show you how much it costs, which is $3,000 a year. We show you the impact on the CPU, and we show you how to fix it. By the way, we have in the console an example application with all of these issues, and you can see for yourself the types of issues. Now, let's look at the visualizations in the remaining 4.5 minutes. So what I
like that will make you sound like a hero. Look, I saved $3,000 for the business. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Put it on your resume. So the profiler also shows you everything that your application is doing, and we show you this in standard visualizations for profilers, which are called flame graphs. Now, flame graphs, if you've never seen them before, can look a little bit daunting, but just at the beginning, trust me, everybody at Amazon uses them, and also many people outside. So what they do is they represent your codes as in stack traces. So everybody knows what a stack trace is, I hope. If you take a snapshot of your stack traces, it will show the main function, which is calling another function or a method, and all the way to the top. So we show you over a given period of time what methods are running and how much each of those methods is taking from the CPU. So what you see here is horizontal bars, which are your methods as part of code paths, and the code path is visible from bottom up, right? You have multiple code paths. Which literally represents the way your code is running, is written and is running. And
in order, right?
Exactly, in order. So vertically, there's order. Horizontally, there's no order. It's alphabetical order, and that's because we don't have the concept of time. Our concept of time consists of, hey, we capture this data between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock, right? 10:10 and 11:10. So if you hover over a method, so this vertical thing is a code path, right? So you have many code paths here. If you hover over a method, you see like things like your class name, method name, Amazon SQS client builder.build, the percentage that it takes from the CPU, and the dollar value. So if you know what your application is doing, you can easily say, well, I'm spending 27% on SQS, or say, my SQS client is taking 27%. Is that something that I expect or no? If it is, great. If it's not, well, let's figure out why this is happening. And so it's like a debugging tool. You want to know what your application is doing and whether it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So the visualizations require you to know what your application is supposed to be doing. So there's this context that you need to bring in. The recommendations, they just tell you, like, even if you've never seen that application before, they'll tell you these are the things that are wrong that we know are wrong because of how we've trained algorithms from our human experience. Whereas this one requires you as the human to know what your application is doing and is supposed to be doing. So the interesting thing is that we do slice and dice the data in various ways. I'm sorry, Jonathan, you wanted to say
go for it.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, so like we're looking at CPU right now, and then I was wondering if my application is not CPU bound, is there anything else that I can do?
Yeah, like absolutely. Yeah, so there are different use cases, and in fact, many times you might be your use case might not be related at all to CPU. Maybe your CPU is idle, but your performance is still bad. So if you switch to a latency view, you will see other type of information. So what you see here, this is color coded, and you can see the color coding on the left hand side. We show you data on the threads that are waiting or blocked. So you could have waiting threads that they're not using the CPU, but you're waiting on something and therefore your application is slow, or similar with blocked. And this is going to be very helpful when you're troubleshooting issues when your application is being too slow.
I bet. That's awesome.
And then one more thing I wanted to mention is we show you different ways to look at the data. Is bottom up, where you see, well, this is my main function and these are the key entry points here, right? But if you want to say, well, what's my really most expensive line of code, the code that's taking up the most of my CPU, and that's the hotspot view. So in the hotspot view, you can see at the top, these are the methods that are actively running on the CPU. So you can see that, for example, zip file.getEntry is taking 11% of the time, which is in this particular case for this application is $2,500 per year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like that will, like, if I wasn't expecting that my code was spending most of its time on zipping stuff, like I will know right away to maybe go and optimize or use another library or something like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And I wanted to make one more thing, which is when you're looking at your flame graphs, you can say, well, whoa, that's a lot of stuff in here. Where should I begin? And usually where you want to begin is your code, your own code. And this is why we highlight your code, which is in blue, versus any other code, which could be library code or framework. And normally you don't really have power, like you can change library. You can decide to use another one, but you cannot change the code in a given library. So that's how you know.
That is cool.
Cool. So
cool.
that is all. And there's one last thing, use both visualizations and recommendations. These go hand in hand.
That's awesome. That's an awesome demo, Daniela. Thank you for walking us through that. I really love the flame graph. If you've not been playing with flame graph, it may be looking crazy right now, but once you dive a little bit into it, it's just a nice way to visualize a lot of data into one particular way. So definitely something cool there. That is awesome.
Daniela, I know that it's late for you, so really just want to say thank you for leading us through that demo on Profiler. We are going to let you go so that you can get some sleep. Just wanted to say thank you for stopping by. It was awesome to have you on here.
My pleasure. I enjoyed the show.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, John, let's keep this rolling and get our second guest on here, Vishnu Purimi, who's a principal product manager for CodeGuru. Vishnu, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Excited to be here. Hi.
Vishnu, tell us again a little bit about yourself, what your background is, how you got into machine learning.
Sure. Like truly believe that machine learning can be applied to many situations and can magically make things better. Like we talked about earlier in this episode, like teaching to leash a cat or even looking for aliens, or even much simpler problems that we deal at Amazon, like inventory forecasting, real-time pricing. So right now we are applying it to code to make developers happy. Well, that's our objective.
That's awesome. And so we got a very small taste of reviewer a little bit like earlier, right? So but I wanted to go again quickly, but into like let's restart from scratch, right? On reviewer itself, we saw profiler, dove deep into it. What does it do? So let's look at that.
Sure. So, like as Daniela briefly mentioned earlier uh, in the Twitch session, so Reviewer is primarily used when developers are writing code, and it uses machine learning to detect like potential defects that are probably difficult most of the times for developers to identify. And it recommends fixes like you have seen in Profiler to fix the code before you deploy it to production. One thing to note is we use machine learning heavily, so we train Reviewer on millions of open source code and Amazon code to come up with the recommendations that we have today.
So if I'm understanding this right, you have Git, right? So I guess code commit, which is our own GitHub, Bitbucket. Will that all of those be supported?
Yes, today we support Bitbucket, Code Commit, GitHub Cloud, and GitHub Enterprise.
Awesome. So basically, the dev, right? So sends something, sends a pull request into Git, and then the way that works is like there's a pull request notification that will be sent into reviewer, right?
Yes, that's right.
Reviewer. And then that thing kind of does its own thing with machine learning. And then whatever it finds, it throws back into that pull request as a comment.
And John, I just want to make sure, are you sharing your screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I was sharing my screen.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, like if you can see this process that John just noted down, it is the regular development process, right? Like you make changes in a local branch, then you raise a pull request. That pull request goes to uh, peers to actually review the code. And once it's approved, you check it in and merge it with the main branch. So during that time of when you actually send it to peer reviews, we also listen to those notifications and we automatically provide comments during that stage.
That's awesome.
Yeah, when
And
we
then,
mean we, it's reviewer, CodeGuru reviewer.
well, yeah. Okay, so you mentioned that it's difficult to find defects, right? So are we talking about syntax errors here?
Yeah, it starts there, but it really looks into like hard to detect issues like concurrency, deadlocks. We'll see some examples later. Even things like data corruption, resource leaks, and things like best practices where developers like you have to keep abreast to the latest developments in the languages. So it's better for a machine to automatically do that rather than a human keeping track of it.
Okay.
Awesome.
That makes sense. And just
Apparently,
like
I have to rewrite my stuff because my handwriting is getting worse. So
someone's gonna come up with a butter service for your handwriting, John. But Vishnu, just like we did before with Profiler, is it possible for you to show us maybe a demo of how Reviewer works in action and what's going on there?
Sure, let's dive in.
Awesome.
So is my screen up? And
yep.
Oh,
Go
okay,
for it.
great. Well, so we are looking at the AWS console. So you go into Amazon CodeGuru, and you have two options, Profiler and Reviewer. So you select the Reviewer, you get started. And there's the repositories that we have talked about earlier that we support today. So for this demo, we will use GitHub. The first thing I will do is to connect to the GitHub repository. So generally, if it's the first time that you're doing it, asks for authentication. In this case, I've already provided them, so it's all automatically connected it for me. And then you will see all the repositories automatically listed here. And for this demo, we will use the MS demo repository and I associate it. And see, now you can now go into the CodeGuru dashboard automatically, and you can see the status is associating. So what it does is once this is associated, now it listens to all pull requests that are coming from this repository, and CodeGuru automatically analyzes those pull requests and produces recommendations. So
Nice.
let's wait for a, oh yeah, now I've refreshed, so it's associated. So now we can go to our normal developer workflow. So I'm on my GitHub repository, and as we have seen, we have associated the MS demo repository. There are two branches. I've pre-created the two branches that in the workflow that John also showed earlier. And this is the demo branch that I'm making my local changes. And you can see I have a file that I've checked in. Now, what I will do is I'll create a pull request. There's a new pull request I'm opening. And you compare the demo branch with the master branch. And then you can see the file as the changed file here. And all I do is create a pull request. So
No comment. That's what I do. Like my name is sufficient. Like,
that's not
come on.
ideal, but for this demo, yes. Thanks for catching that, John. That's probably something
It's okay.
that we
It's
have
okay.
to
I do that all the time, so it's fine.
So now you can go back to the CodeGuru dashboard. Now we should go click on code reviews. You can see that automatically we start listening to those pull requests, and you can see this is pending right now. It'll probably take generally 5 to 10 minutes depending on the size of the files. So right now it's pending. So when it is completed, you actually see the recommendations directly posted here. For this particular case, I could go to a previous one that probably we did. Let
We're
me
gonna
see.
play the cooking show, right? We've
Yeah.
done that before.
Already baked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's already baked. It's okay.
Or maybe I will show it to you when it's actually done. So I don't want to cheat here. So until then, I could actually, I've run a similar one. So the other way to find recommendations is actually go into the the dashboard itself. So this one is a similar one. So it's 70 lines of code that we have analyzed, and we have provided 5 recommendations. And
So
you can see that.
the amount of line of code is important, right? Is that I think it's around the pricing, right? Okay. So lines of code is important there. Good.
Yeah. One thing to note about the pricing is CodeGuru, both the reviewer and profiler are free to use for the first 90 days. And after that, we price per line of code, and you can go to our pricing page.
Wow.
So throw all of your code now and
Yeah.
go.
and test it as much as possible.
Awesome.
So you can see, like, it lists all the recommendations here. You could also have a link, so you could go there and see the exact line of code where the recommendation is. Let's see if but this is probably the other way. The more natural way is actually going into the pull request itself, where we directly, it's still working on it. But let me see for this one.
Yeah, let's just go to another one of the older version. That's totally fine. Because yeah, you said it will take like 5 to 10 minutes, so that may throw us above our timing.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Yes. Fortunately, I might have deleted it, but we can come back, John.
Okay.
Like, we can probably come back. It will complete, and then I can show it because that's the last step. Yeah.
So like, go ahead.
I was just going to ask. You were showing some things earlier, Vishnu.
Here.
Oh, did it go?
Sorry, Kirsten.
Yeah.
This is complete. So now it is completed. So you can see, like in the pull request itself, you don't even need to go to the dashboard. It actually posts directly on the GitHub repository. So you can see the line of the code and our recommendations here.
That's awesome.
So do you have to
it's all in Git, right?
This is in Git. Yeah.
So like yeah, that goes back to like that bad drawing that I had earlier where everything goes back into Git. So you're not even having to play with anything else than just being there. You just throw the pull request, you look at it, 5 minutes later it's gonna just show up as a comment, and then you can decide to act on it or not. That's awesome.
That's right.
And then I was just going to ask Vishnu, do you have to, so in order to get these recommendations that you're showing right here, do you have to train reviewer to understand your code? Like where does the ML come in?
So we currently don't train customer code. We train on a lot of other code that is open source and Amazon code. And based on those learnings, if we find a similar issue here, we would recommend it to the customer. Now, one thing to note, like we don't, unless the customer wants us to do it, we don't generally look at because of security concerns.
Sure.
We don't train on that code. But having said that, where does ML come? That's an interesting question. So when we source a lot of open source or Amazon code, we train that code and we identify certain patterns that are most commonly existing that we could potentially find in other code also. And that's where ML comes in, where we see those patterns and we apply them to customer code.
So it's like open source projects that you're using to throw and build the ML model that is there. Awesome.
And internal Amazon code as well. Like there's like millions and millions of lines of code. Yep.
Apparently we code in Java, internal lines of code. Awesome. Awesome. So how does reviewer differ from human or manual code reviews? Is the service intended to replace like those, the manual code reviews?
The service is not intended to replace them. The service is intended to augment those. Like I've talked about, best practices is a good example, right? Like developers need to. It's not necessary that developers will keep abreast with all the new changes, whereas a machine like CodeGuru can be probably better in that case. So, and there are other things. Like if you're a small company with 5 to 10 developers, you generally probably don't have a lot of senior engineering talent to review your code, and that's where you can use a service like CodeGuru Reviewer to maintain your code quality.
Awesome.
Awesome. And speaking of humans and machines, Vishnu and I have a game to play with you guys. So we wrote a couple of code samples and we sent them to the code reviewer. And we actually already know the answer that it provided. So we kind of want to see if your skills match up with the machines.
So like is that for me? Like I have to look at that code and then figure that out? Like I haven't coded in years. Can I get chat to help me out?
Oh, sure. Why not? Chat, if you know the answer to the issue in each of the code reviews, go ahead and send it in the chat. John may or may not need your help. We'll see. So if we are ready, we can send the first code review. We can show you.
There you go. So how long do I get for looking at this?
30 seconds.
30, like a minute. Is that okay? Really I want a minute. Okay. Like I'm gonna put my own timer and put a minute. I decided.
Okay.
So what is that doing? So it's a get, right? So I'm getting a string IP apparently, and then I'm saying if not the IP pattern match an IP address. So apparently I'm looking if it's an IP address. If it's not looking like it, I just return the IP. Else I do a repo. I'm guessing that's a global variable somewhere. Then I do a contains that IP address. Then I do a repo get that IP.
That was pretty fast.
Well, I have no clue. So like I'm looking at an IP address. Then I look in the repo. If it contains it of that global variable, then I just go and refetch the IP and I return that. What's the problem with that? Anyone has any idea?
John, look
the hell
for
is it doing?
Any concurrency issues that you might find here.
Concurrency issue. Okay, so it's done. I give up. That's it. Like anyone has any idea why reget? Oh, why reget it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. No, I think that's my answer. Yep. Why reget it from Adley? Is that the answer?
Let's check. Let's see what reviewer said.
Okay, let's check that one out.
So here
So,
the
go for it.
the issue is like if you have a single thread that is working on this code, it is perfectly right. But
Okay.
let's say you have a multi-threaded code and there's one thread that is looking at contains key. And then before it goes and gets this key, if there's another thread that would have accessed or deleted the key, you would have returned null. So that's what the recommendation exactly says. And the fix is this for this.
Wow. Well, whatever that feedback says, the developer feedback, good catch of a potential race. Yeah, I did not get that. Good job on that one,
This is
Adley.
actual customer feedback we have got on actual customer code.
Oh, wow.
Okay, awesome.
Very cool. Do we have time for one more, John?
One more. Okay.
One more. Okay, let's do one more.
Count down. Let's look. It's 2 lines. Come on, I can do that. So this DynamoDB, that's what this seems to be saying. So I'm doing a client scan. So for anyone that doesn't know, DynamoDB, it's a NoSQL database. And then the scan is supposed to return all of the data within that database. So then what we do is we say if the scan result is not equal to null, we return all the items, else it goes to null. Like, I don't get it. Like, I have a database, like there's a table, there's a ton of data in it, and then I would just return the data. Like if my table is 1 terabyte of data, I do a scan of it, it's all written inside of that variable, and then I return it. What?
Yep, you should
Like,
probably
anyone
look for
has any idea?
pagination.
7 seconds, I need help.
Pagination, John.
Pagination. Okay, yeah. Okay, so, no. Pagination. Oh yeah, so the 1 terabyte table, if it's a table of 1 terabyte, then I'm guessing it's probably not returning the full 1 terabyte inside of that SR. But yeah, I definitely needed your help there. That's a lot of return there. Okay, fine. Let me see what the thing says there.
Yep.
Use a loop to check for additional. Yeah, but I don't play with like huge tables all the time, so fine.
Now you know.
Yeah, now I know.
Amazon plays with huge tables, so now you know.
Well,
That's awesome.
I think you did a good job. I think you did good. Thank you, John, and also to the people in the chat for playing along and helping.
ML2 John 0. Yeah, I fail.
Yeah.
Fine. Well, let's see. I told you that's why I don't want my peers to review what I'm doing. Like that's like.
You did say that. You did say that.
Awesome. So, sadly at this point, right? So I think it's 8 o'clock, so we need to wrap up now. But first, chat, we have some activities for you that will give you some hands-on experience with CodeGuru. So the first thing is just to grab some code that you've written, or if you don't have any, just grab something that is inside of GitHub and run it through CodeGuru. Right, like Vishnu said, it's free for the first 90 days. So throw and see if any issues, if it flags something out of there, and then look at the recommendations if it says that. And then in addition, I see that we're posting some links to tutorials in the chat that you can go through and get more hands-on experience with both reviewer and profiler. And then take some time between now and our next episode to complete at least some of these tasks, because next week, in the beginning, we'll put your skill to the test by going over a demo of every services that we've been using since the beginning. So you definitely don't want to miss that.
Yeah, definitely not. And you guys, that is a wrap for us for this week. I don't know about you, John and chat, but I had a lot of fun today. I learned a lot. I feel like my brain is on fire again, which is always a good feeling. So thank you to Daniela, who is hopefully sleeping now, and Vishnu for coming on and teaching us all about CodeGuru. I'm excited to play around with this a little bit more. This is one I didn't know too much about. And then chat, of course, thank you guys. You guys are total rock stars and just bring all the life into this show. And
agree.
like John said,
we even got a pretty good comment. So Luisco said, I definitely want to work for Amazon with all this machine learning stuff.
Heyo.
Personal goal. That is awesome.
Very cool. That's the best response you could hope for, right? We're having a good time. We're playing around with ML. And we're going to be back next week to play around with some more ML. And boy, howdy, am I excited. It is going to be a super fun one. We're going to dive into another new-ish AI service, Amazon Kendra, which is a machine learning powered search. And the reason that I think this is going to be such a good one is because we have a really interesting and relevant use case that we're all pretty pumped about. So we're going to be looking at how Kendra, in addition to some other AI services, is being used to help researchers and medical professionals find answers to questions that they have about COVID-19. So really important,
That's awesome.
Extremely relevant. Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see. Definitely cannot wait to dive into that. And on that note, we're about 5 minutes past time. So we are going to let you guys go, and hopefully we will see you all next Thursday.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
You, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Vishnu.
you.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Can't wait. Thanks, William. Bye, guys.